friends. It's Allegra, your friendly neighborhood history nerd. Here to give you another dose of heroes you should know. And this week I'm joined by our beautiful, wonderful, talented Eli, who you may know as Agent Hyde or Echo, or soon to be our DM when we do Ashoka. Yeah.
What up?
If this is the first time you've seen it, that makes sense because this is the second one. So, in case you need a reminder of what's going on, these are all I'm going to talk about historical figures that I think are important that we don't learn about very much, if at all, in school or in other places because they're not white, because they are men, or because they're not men. There it is. Because they're not white, because they're not men, because they're not straight, because they're not whatever. And I think they're cool, and the world would not be the same without them. So I'm talking about them. And then because I'm a double nerd, I'm gonna turn them into D&D characters. And Eli's also going to turn our person today into a D&D character, and we're going to compare and contrast and just see what the other builds. Yeah.
Hell yeah.
So today we're going to talk about Roberto Cofresí, who is a pirate.
Pirates.
A Puerto Rican pirate. Yes. He's also known as Puerto Rico's Robin Hood. So I've simplified this a ton. There's a lot of like political and economic and militaristic intrigue that's not terribly easy to follow, and that's not even really my interest anyway. So I've cut down a whole lot of stuff, but there is so much information out there. Literally just Google search Cofresí and you can find so many sites from Puerto Rico, from outside like militaristic perspectives, from pirate perspectives. It's really interesting. So if you want more in depth, please definitely go check those out. This is definitely just going to be like a basis of his life and who he was, because I think he's neat. So at the height of his career, Cofresí was avoiding capture by no less than 6 nations. Spain, Gran Colombia, Denmark, France, the UK, and the US. And this is about 100 years after like the height of piracy. So he just kind of comes out of the blue and he's like, nah, fuck all y'all. And it's great. But before that, he was born on June 17th in 1791 in Cabo Rojo, which is on the western coast of Puerto Rico. And his family were pretty much just like penniless nobles because it's Puerto Rico and colonialism kind of fucked it up all over the place since people that weren't Tainos came there, because of course they did. His mother dies when he's 4. And he always was very interested in like the ocean and the sea and like wanted to work on the sea. And as a young man, he had a little boat called the Mosquito. So most of this takes place like dead in the center of the Latin American Wars for Independence, which were from 1803 to 1833, which isn't to be confused with the Spanish-American War, which was in 1898. So the Latin American Wars for Independence were basically all of Latin America going up against Spain to be independent. At the end, Spain lost its hold over, I think, everything except for Puerto Rico and Cuba. And Cuban independence happened in 1868, and then Puerto Rico was given to the U.S. in 1898 at the end of the Spanish-American War, because colonialism's bullshit and it's dumb and it makes me mad. Yeah. You know.
I know.
So there's a lot of like privateering, naval warfare that affects commerce, which sends the economy of Puerto Rico into the shitter, and it's all just a mess right now, as it always is. So he married Juana Crietov in 1815, but her family was also pretty poor. And what's really sad is they tried to have kids, and they lost both of their sons pretty soon after they were born. And they finally had a daughter in 1821. But she was their only like kid that survived. So Cofresí kind of goes against like most of my rules that I've made because he's a dude, and he's technically, at least on his dad's side, he's some kind of European. There's a lot of discrepancy about if he's like Danish or German, or I think somewhere in there they said Italian. I don't think he was, but there's like a whole bunch of discrepancy, and then there's a lot less known about his mother's side. Mm-hmm. So who knows? But I don't care because he's cool, and I want to talk about him because pirates, and he's neat. And I make the rules, so it doesn't matter.
Hell yeah.
So as I said, he always loved the sea and he worked on ships from an early age, but he also had like a variety of jobs on land and like docks and in the markets and stuff like that. But he also was like doing criminal shit, stealing cattle, causing havoc, what have you. And he was arrested in 1821 actually for a pretty big highway robbery, and it was the same year that his daughter was born. So because he was a noble, they let him go to like go visit when she was born, and then he fucked off and escaped and like was on the lam for a while. And he would just like come home and visit in secret, and then he'd go off into the jungle and do his thing. And he'd come back and like fuck shit up around. So after that, he worked as a privateer, which is basically privateers are basically government sanctioned pirates. Like they're like, you can't be a pirate, but
it's like you can be a pirate, but like
under our rules.
We're just gonna under our rules, and we're just gonna take a little bit off your back end. You scratch my back, I scratch your back.
Right. So I don't think they knew that he was specifically on the Scipion, the ship. It was his cousin's ship, El Scipion. So I don't know if they knew he was on that ship, but like his cousin had a privateering contract, so he just like pulled people on, and he was like, "Hey, come on, bro." He was like, "All right."
It's like I'm not cool with them, but they'll pay me.
Yeah, basically. But El Scipion was kind of using like questionable piratey tactics already. They'd fly a Colombian flag and then capture American and British ships when they because they'd stand down because they're like, oh, it's an ally, and then they'd take the American and British ships and like steal their shit.
Because why not? If you're not gonna if no one finds out at the end of the day, you know, you'd be like, oh, the ship sank in the middle of the ocean. What?
Oh, you know, let's go.
We didn't get there in time, but we found them.
We found some stuff though.
Everything sank to the bottom. It stores everything in the back.
Yeah. No, we didn't get this from them. We just found it. So there was an American ship called the Otter and a British ship called the Aurora that are pretty big for having done that. Right, the Otter.
The Otter. It's crazy.
So after they took the Otter, there was like a court order for like restitution, and they were like the whole government was pissed about it. And at that point, Cofresí was like, fuck it, full pirate mode. I'm out. Like, I'm just gonna go full pirate.
Deuces.
Yeah. So like kind of at like I said, at the height of his career as a pirate, he was escaping 6 countries, the government of 6 countries, and he also had like several small draft vessels with like rotating crews of I think like 10 to 20. So he'd have some people and then he'd drop them off on land. Okay. And then he'd pick up new people, and like he had.
So you just never make port? You just cycle people out?
Kind of like he'd like land, and then he'd cycle people in because he had a network on land as well. So he'd just like switch who was like working the land shift, basically.
Yeah.
Which is kind of brilliant and maybe a little dangerous, but also cool.
Yeah.
So at the same time as that like local network was happening, the local officials were trying to spy their way into that network in Cabo Rojo, but it was really difficult because all of the locals were very sympathetic to Cofresí, and they basically failed to infiltrate his system, and one of them even got charged with conspiracy. Like they were like, "You failed, but also, did you do it on purpose? You might have done it on purpose." So that was cool. And the reason they were sympathetic to him was because anytime he had goods or gold or whatever he found on the ships, he would go, when he went on land, he would pass it out to like the poorer people, and he'd share he would Robin Hood, literally. Yeah. Which is super dope.
Well, if you wanted to get somebody on your side, it might as well be the people.
Right. Yeah.
Because fuck the government.
Fuck the government. Like, get the people on your side. And they would hide him away, and they would lie about like having seen him. They'd be like, "Hey, have you seen Cofresí?" And they'd be like, "Nah, it's been like 3 months," as he's like hanging out in their backyard.
Never heard of him.
Right. And especially in Cabo Rojo, which was his like home turf, like they were trying to get people in his home to roll over on him, and they were like, "Fuck no."
Oh.
Yeah.
You can't snitch at home.
No.
Everyone would know. Like, you can't.
Yeah. And it'd been like a whole thing for pretty much his whole life, that everything, you know, he was like seeing how much people were suffering, and they was kind of destitute. So he was like, well, if I have this, like, why don't I fucking share it?
Yeah.
That's not to say he was like a fully like kind and benevolent being.
Oh no.
But so he chose ships that were like fast and maneuverable rather than like heavily gunned and like armored. And there's so a lot of I have to say a lot of like Cofresí's history is kind of steeped in folklore because he was such a hero on the island that like things have been like skewed in his favor and skewed and conversely the other way around, like government documents kind of try to paint him as more violent and more evil than he was. So there's like a weird construct of like where's the truth line? It's somewhere in the middle. But there is one kind of like lore that he once took over and plundered 8 ships in a single go at the same time, which honestly I wouldn't be surprised. Yeah. So at the start he went after the US ships and so he went after the US ships at the start because they were the ones that were kind of fucking everything over the most. And the Spanish would kind of ignore it because they're like, well, if it's like fucking over the Americans, it benefits us. And like if it went after other European ships too, they'd be like, okay, I don't see. Yeah. But eventually he did go after the Spaniards. And so they like whined to the crown to get him to stop, which is when they kind of leaned on the local authorities to go after him more, even though they didn't have, a ton of resources.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, so those were the 2 he went after like the most harshly. Yeah, that was kind of his mode, which go off, dude. So he operated out of La Mona Island, which is between the Dominican Republic and Puerto Rico. So it's like it like floats in between. And the locals there would protect him too because that was his hideout, and so he'd store stuff there, but he'd also spread stuff around. There's also a pirate base in the Dominican Republic island of Saona. And there's also reports of him being on Vieques, but that's on the other side of Puerto Rico. Like if Dominican Republic's here, I forgot it's mirrored. Dominican Republic's here, La Mona's here, Puerto Rico's here, and Vieques is all the way over here. So like there's a chance that he bopped around all of them, but who knows? So he had a pirate code that was just, we take a ship and anyone who wants to join the crew, cool, you're in. We're bros. If you don't, you're dead. That's it.
I mean, that's pretty fucking straightforward,
Yeah.
Like leave no witnesses, but like you can join us if you want,
Yeah. I'm going to take your shit, and if you want to join me, cool, you can keep some of your shit, or bye. In 1823, there was like a physician and a politician named Pedro Goico, sorry. And he was like 15 at the time, and he was traveling on his own to get like secondary education. I think he was heading for the US, and like mid-voyage, Cofresí like intercepted it, boarded it, and he got all the passages together. And when he learned that Goico was among them, he changed the course, took them back to the island, and dropped him back off at home. So basically it was because he knew Goico's father, because they also had associations with pirates, and he was also from Cabo Rojo. And eventually he, the physician kid grew up to be an abolitionist. So good choice, Cofresí. So he was finally caught in the early spring of 1825 by collaborating Spanish and Danish ships in like a surprise attack. Basically, it looked like there wasn't anyone there. They rolled up on it. They popped up. He tried to fight them. It didn't work. He tried to flee, but he like couldn't shake them. So eventually, he kind of ran the ship aground and went inland. He was hurt. I think he lost 2 of his crew members, and like half his crew was captured as they were getting on land the first day. And then he was caught the morning after. And even then he tried to like fight them off with a knife until they subdued him and took him in. He tried to bribe the mayor of San Juan with 4,000 pieces of 8 for his freedom. But obviously the mayor didn't go for it.
Of course.
Yeah. And so like the story goes that he, like, as he was being captured, he said, do you think I'm scared of you? Do you know how many of your people I've killed? Because he's kind of a badass.
Yeah. Well, if you're going to go down.
Yeah, definitely.
Don't
Just
ever
go
let
out.
them see you cry.
Yeah.
Don't go down as
He's
badass as you can possibly go.
and he does. God damn, he's so
Mhm.
cool. So he's killed March 29th, 1825 by firing squad in San Juan, with the rest of his crew. And so first off, he refused to have his eyes covered, and then they had to blindfold him only after he was tied to a chair. Um, he was talking about all the like Spanish and American dudes he killed in his time. And then he supposedly said he killed 400 persons with his own hands, but never to his knowledge had he killed a native of Puerto Rico, because he's a bro and it helped them, and that essentially actually includes my family. I will tell you that story in a minute because it's cool. But his last words were reportedly, "I've killed hundreds with my own hands, and I know how to die. Fire." So, like, what the fuck?
Like a G. Like how any badass should go down, just,
yes. Just fucking do it, you bitches.
Just do it. Fuck it.
Yeah.
Fuck you.
And the network that he had of people on land took a further 14 years to dismantle. It was like deep and ingrained in Cabo Rojo that it took them 14 years to take it all the way down. As I said, there's obviously like varied reasons that he became a pirate in reports. Some people say it's because he hated all like the naval bullshit that was going on, and he wanted to relieve like the destitution of the people. And then there's like obviously the governmental side of it that's like he wanted just to be a pirate and have all this gold and take things, and he's a bad man. And then there's the third kind of camp, which is he sold his soul to the devil to be loved by women, and to get supernatural powers, which basically enabled him to make his ship disappear mid-battle.
I want that option.
Honestly, if that was an option for me, I'd be like, yes.
If that's the way to go, I want to be known that way.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure. I sold my soul to the devil.
Yeah. Women love me.
Women love me.
I get to disappear whenever I want.
Go ship.
Perfect.
Fuck yeah.
Let's go.
Zoom. Let's go. Tis a dream.
So there's a town in the Dominican Republic named after him, as well as a statue of him in Cabo Rojo, which is the picture that's over here. Mirrors are hard. That's him. You can see his titties. You can't see 4,000-year-old Enheduana titties though. But he does have a well-placed something. I don't know. I don't know if it's supposed to be swords or what the bottom of it is, but obviously from that statue you can tell that he's pretty well loved all over within the Caribbean, as in like he fought for them. Yeah, exactly.
Top tier motherfucker.
Fuck yes. So there's said to be a cave in Cabo Rojo where all his treasure's hidden, but no one's ever found it, of course. Other people think the rest of it's on Vieques or La Mona. There's tons of like songs written about him. There's stories all over the place. He's a legend pretty much in Puerto Rico. And okay, so one of the reasons I wanted to talk about him because my grandmother told me this story recently, and like she was like, we had pirate gold, and I was like, what the fuck are you talking about? We had pirate gold. And she goes, no, listen to me. I'm like, okay. And I'm driving to work, and she's trying to tell me this story, and I'm like on the 101, like, what the fuck are you talking about? So it's either, I think it's her great grandmother. It's two or three. Oh, or is it one great? No, it's got to be 2 or 3 greats. Anyway, her name was Agatha Luna. We'll call her Agatha Luna. So Agatha Luna lived up in the hills. It was Puerto Rico. We were very poor. And every time Cofresí came to town, he would like swing through her town and give her a little bit of gold or a little bit of goods or whatever he had. And so she'd store it somewhere. I think my grandma said it was under the house. Like she'd just like stick it under the house. And she left it there, and she didn't really tell anyone about it, except like a couple family members knew. And then time goes on, Cofresí passes away, Agatha Luna gets older, and she dies. And so they set her up in the living room, you know how they do, like for a viewing, and everyone's kind of gathered around and they're praying and whatever you do. I'm not great at funerals, clearly. So everyone's like having their moments and telling memories and all that stuff. And eventually, as like time goes on, someone brings up the gold, and they're like, okay, well, like who gets the gold and where is it? And then one of them's like, it's under the house. And then they get into this huge fight. about like who gets it and who gets how much and where it is and all that. And like at the height of their fighting, Agatha Luna sits up in the middle of the fucking living room and screams at them all to get the fuck out of her house. Apparently she wasn't dead. She had we don't know like that many details about it because it was ages ago. But yeah, apparently she wasn't dead. She survived another couple of years. Died for real later. They made sure she was dead before they argued about the gold. And when they went to look for it, it was gone. Presumably washed away in a flood. So yep. Part of me wants to go like back and be like, is it there though? Could it be there?
That's the temptation. That's how you get sucked into a ghost story.
Exactly. So yeah, that's a very basic overall of Cofresí and all the cool shit he did. Obviously, I'm telling it from a perspective of like, I'm definitely coming from more of like a folk hero perspective because he took care of my family. Like, of course I'm fucking on his side.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah. So do you wanna go first and tell me what you built for him?
Yeah, sure. I kind of kept it a little simple.
Yeah.
I fucking love pirates. I love everything about pirates. Like every story about a person who is a pirate is always just like they're infamous. They did something crazy, whether it was breaking out social norms or like, either you're a rich person that just said, fuck it, I'm just gonna go be out at sea, like the whole collective like thing is like they, loving the ocean, being a part of that stuff, but then also like saying, fuck you, government.
Yeah.
And fuck whatever you want to do. I want to be a free person and I'll do whatever it takes to do that.
Yes.
So, but you can't deny that, Cofresí was a dastardly dude.
Oh, for sure.
So I went with this one. I decided to go rogue with him. And I chose the swashbuckling rogue.
Fuck yeah. Fuck yes.
So that's the class and subclass I picked for him was all that. I statted him out with high charisma and high dexterity. Yep. I feel like convincing someone to let you out of jail.
Right.
And then proceed to manage to duck and weave from the government, having that whole chain of people and like switching out crews and stuff like that. Like you got to have like charisma to like convince a butt ton of people to be on your side. I mean, like gold helps for sure. Like, paying them off helps for sure. But, being a little nice at the same time and being a little charismatic, I think goes a long way. So I have it at 19 for dexterity and 17 for charisma.
Hell yeah.
I decided to give him 14 for wisdom because I feel like being a pirate and like doing all of that stuff, there is like an air of intelligence, and of course he's probably had some form of education if he was considered noble. But like surviving and eluding things and being out at open sea, I think requires more wisdom than it does intelligence. So I gave him a 14 for wisdom and a 10 for intelligence, so just average him out. And then I gave him a straight 12 for strength, and then the dump stat I ended up giving him for constitution because no one survives a firing squad.
Yeah.
And if we're going as a human, human beings and bullets don't get along together.
Right.
But for this one, I know that you normally just want like straight human beings or human as the stat, but I decided to give him a variant.
Ooh, yeah.
On the same reason of that, like pirates are infamous and they have to do a lot of stuff. So I feel like they're a little extra.
Yeah,
than
for
just
sure.
Like normal, regular Joe just chilling in a
like human plus.
Yeah, human plus. Like there's like an extra bit of, you got to do.
Little oomph.
Yeah, a little oomph. And so with that, he gained a feature, which I chose to be lucky. I love the lucky feature. I love to try to throw it on my characters when I can. And I think you need it also as a pirate and escaping and eluding, all of that hiding in plain sight, being a privateer under your
Right.
like your cousin's flagship and stuff like that requires a level of luck that no normal human can muster sometimes,
Yeah.
Um let's see. Um what else?
What's like skill proficiencies did you try to like muscle up with him?
Skill proficiencies, I picked athletics,
Mm-hmm.
um history, insight,
Ooh,
perception, persuasion, stealth, and survival.
nice.
Um,
Oh, he should get expertise if he's a rogue too. Which ones did you like?
expertise in perception, persuasion, and stealth.
Nice.
I feel like it'd be
For nearly a
vigilant,
century, Delta
persuading people to convince them, and then trying to elude and invade wherever you can.
Mm-hmm.
And I think like the history one comes from, I chose the noble background for him because
Right.
that I feel like that's the appropriate place to kind of sprinkle in the fact that he came from a
That's where he
level of,
started, kind of.
yeah, where he started, a level of affluence, even though he wasn't well off,
Mm-hmm.
but at least in stature, um that gives him that little oomph to, and
Yeah.
plus that gives you like abilities to like convince people to rally behind you and stuff, I believe.
Yeah.
So that's why I wanted him to have that background. And then
Let's see. How about did he have any feats besides the lucky one you gave him
no,
earlier?
that was the only one. Lucky was the only one, and then I just beefed up his charisma and
Nice.
dexterity to
Yeah.
as high a level as possible.
Yeah, makes sense. What are some of the like cool things he gets with Swashbuckler?
So let's see. Um,
Because I also did a little bit of Swashbuckler for mine, but I think you get a little bit more than I did from Swashbuckler.
he gets panache. Panache.
Mm-hmm.
So you get you can make a persuasion check contested by a creature's inside check. Um, and then hostile creatures will give you disadvantage. Let's see what
Nice.
else you get. Um, you get is cutting action a rogue.
Yeah, cunning action's a thing. Uncanny dodge, sneak attack. I think you get fancy footwork and rakish audacity too.
Yes, I get fancy footwork, rakish audacity, evasion, and then panache.
Oh yeah, evasion. God, evasion's so good.
Evasion is the best,
I
dude.
fucking love evasion.
Evasion saves lives.
Yes.
And only lives.
Only.
And yeah, that's pretty much for like features that I get
Yeah.
for that. I chose a rapier
Mm-hmm.
for weapon because I feel like that's appropriate just in general for period.
Yeah.
And for a pirate, like a short sword is not a pirate sword
Nah.
unless you're like a grunt pirate. Like I feel like if you're a captain,
You have
you
like
know,
cool shit.
you got the rapier, you spent a little extra money, you want that fancy hilt, you
Yeah.
want that spring in your fucking sword,
Or you like took someone down for it.
exactly, you want to fucking like crisscross and fuck people up.
Yeah.
So that was his main weapon, and then there's just like standard leathers.
Yeah.
No spells because he's just pretty much more of the just a fighter
Brawler. Yeah.
brawler type, which I feel is appropriate.
Yeah. Did you have any languages for him? Because does he get an extra language for being noble?
He does get an extra language. I mean, I didn't know. I wasn't too sure of like what to put for languages, so
Yeah.
I put Dwarvish and Elvish because that's like I feel like those are of like common languages or like languages that would be
like of the people kind of thing.
of the people, or
Yeah.
at least like in proximity of each other. When you look at like D&D lore and stuff like that, you would find Dwarvish and Elvish together with like common.
Nice.
So he would kind of have those languages on boot on top of Thieves' Cant,
Yeah, which of course he knows.
I gave him a dice set. I feel like pirates just play dice like instead of like cards and stuff like that. I feel like dice are more durable, or they like last you longer. You fall in the water. Yeah, exactly. Totally.
Yes.
That's exactly the. And then like standard leather armor.
What's his AC at? Because his dex is pretty good.
AC's at 14.
Okay.
But initiative's at +7.
Whoo! Hell
Yeah.
yes.
So he's he's a go-getter,
Yeah.
ready to go. And then in terms of like saving throws, the dex is at 8,
Nice.
my deck save is at 8 and like intelligence is at 4.
Hell yeah.
Those are the highest ones. So yeah, that's pretty much where I went with them. I think simple, because I feel like, sometimes like building a class, like simplifying it and stuff like that allows the character to like be and like do the thing. Like, he's great on his own accord, and like he didn't need like magic abilities or like special skills in order to do it. So I feel like keeping it simple, but like upping those like details of him, like his persuasion, his ability to survive and adapt and stuff like that, was where I was hoping to go for it.
Yeah. Oh man, it works so well. I love it. I also did part swashbuckler for him, but I gave him paladin. Hear me out. Paladin, Oath of the Conquest.
I love the conquest.
Yeah. Like, I realized that seems a little bit counterintuitive to him being like, fuck colonialism. But I think you can do it in like, I think you can be like, fuck colonialism as a conquest in reverse. And I think that's like a mood he was going for.
Well, I feel like conquest doesn't always have to be like in that colonial perspective.
Yeah, that's true.
I think you can conquest in the scope of like winning over the hearts of the people, which ends up being like the most important thing at the end of the day. Governments fall, at when if the people say that they want, if they decide one day we just want to destroy it, we all could collectively just go and do that, so winning the people is so much more better, conquering their hearts and minds and their will.
Yeah. So he's a rogue 6, paladin 4, because he's definitely more of a rogue.
Yeah.
He I put his strength at 17, his charisma's at 16. And then I had a really hard time giving him a dump stat, because I feel like he's pretty well rounded.
Truthfully, that was
in like a weird way.
That was also the problem I had. I was just like, well, I could dump intelligence, but like he's not.
That seems like a disservice.
He's not a dumb dude, and like then you ignore some of his background, but like but I imagine he's fairly strong because of
working on ships forever.
Working on ships, he's incredibly wise, dexterous. He's totally well rounded. So it was hard to find a place. So what did you end up dumping?
So my first ASI went to intelligence and wisdom to pop them up a little bit. So his intelligence is a 10, his wisdom's a 12. Literally the only reason his intelligence is a 10 is because he went to school, but he didn't go to school long, and intelligence is so like involved in like book learning and like knowledge, whereas wisdom's a little bit more of like world knowledge. Like, so I was like, okay, yeah. So that was the only reason his intelligence was technically his dump, even though it's a 0. His strength is at 14, his con's at 13, because you gotta have some kind of wherewithal to fight off scurvy.
True.
And then like I had the same reasons for his charisma being up there. And also I needed like the strength to be a little bit higher so I could double him in paladin.
Yeah.
For his expertise, for me, I gave him sleight of hand, perception, and intimidation, because scaring people into joining your crew takes, I think, a lot.
Yeah.
Let's see, what else did I...
Did you have a god per se that you would have attached him to in like the D&D world?
I had a couple. Where's my... Oh, it's over there. Hold on. Nah, fuck it. It's fine. I think I wrote them down. Yeah. So I found Mask, Umberly, Tretherion, the Traveler, and Iadro. Those were like the
Umberly's
5.
my bitch, yo.
I know! Umberly's so fucking cool.
Love Umberly.
They all seem to like line up with his interests the most. So I think any of them would be a really cool kind of direction for him to go.
Yeah, totally.
Let me see. Oh man, I wanted, the only reason I didn't give him the alertness feat, or I have 2 reasons. The one reason was I couldn't leave his intelligence that low, and it just didn't fit. So I had to double my ASI, which was fine. And I wanted to give him alertness because with alertness, his initiative would have been plus 11 at level 10, which is dumb.
So dumb.
But he also got in a sneak attack, and with alert, you literally can be sneak attacked if you're conscious. So I was like, I guess, but I really wanted to throw alertness on there so bad.
Yeah.
Let's see. For his background, I also kind of mixed things. I gave him like half sailor, half folk hero. So he has like the sailor, like the ship bit from Sailor, and I think I gave him. What did I do here? I can't remember. He got survival from Poke Hero. So I just kind of melded them together. Would a DM let you do that? Maybe, probably. I make the rules on this show though, and so that's what I did.
If I was your DM, I'd probably say cool.
It would make it. Does it make sense for story?
It makes sense for story. And if you're splitting the stats and stuff, I wouldn't like bust you on it.
Yeah.
But I mean, when I build pirates and stuff like that, that's usually the school of thought. They're either going to be swashbuckling rogues, or they're going to be like whatever fits the story, and with a background in the sailor, so that you can at least tie the ship aspect to it,
pull it in somehow.
Well, there is a variant in the sailor feat, right, for pirates, right?
I'm pretty sure there is.
Yeah,
I would be surprised if there wasn't.
Yeah, so either way, you get your pirate licks in.
Yeah. Let's see. So he, like you said, he got fancy footwork, rakish attitude. I didn't get panache because I think you get that at level 7 and he's only a 6. Man, fancy footwork is so cool. And if you pair it with rakish audacity, it's dumb and I love it. And the fact that you can use a different way to sneak attack.
It's just choice. Yeah. This is dope.
Yeah.
So much options. Yes. I need to actually play like I have yet to play a rogue in a game. And I need to.
You're gonna be such a good rogue.
Be so dastardly. I need to. That would be the next thing.
For his paladin, he gets divine sense, lay on hands, divine smite, divine health, which is also helpful when fighting against scurvy.
You're really concerned about the scurvy.
That was like, as a kid, that was something I was always really concerned about getting myself. I wasn't a pirate. I didn't live on a ship. I had plenty of access to vitamin C, but God, was I terrified of fucking scurvy. I think the main he has a dueling fighting style. So if he's wielding a melee weapon in one hand and nothing else, he gets +2 to damage.
Nice.
Makes sense for a swashbuckler, and since he's a paladin, tracks there too. The main things I get from Oath of the Conquest, though, are Conquering Presence, which means anyone in 30 feet that I choose makes a wisdom saving throw, and if they fail, they're scared for a full minute. And then Guided Strike, which is a +10 to hit. So, makes sense. Both of them make sense. For his spells, so he only has 3 spell slots, but he knows 5 spells. And he gets 2 of them because of Paladin. So he gets Arm of Agathis and Command, which, fantastic. I also gave him Purify Food and Water because, going out into...
And the scurvy.
But also, like, going out to help people and, like, making sure that their, like, food and water were good and, like, potable. Compelled Duel, which is a cool-ass spell, and I like it. They have to make, I think it's a wisdom saving throw, and if they fail, they have to fight you. They can't do anything else. They have to fight you.
Damn. I wish I knew about that spell.
I like that one.
Yeah.
And then I gave him all 3 smites, Thunderous, Searing, and Wrathful, because how could I not?
Smite.
Yes. Smite. For his stuff, he also has Rapier. I gave him a Cutlass. Because that's the
other pirate sword. Yeah. So I'm down.
Yeah, I was like, he could have a short sword, but like for flavor, it's a Cutlass. Fuck off.
Yeah.
I also gave him a musket.
Ooh.
Because
That's right. Muskets would be
Yeah.
around during that time. Yeah, I didn't even think about muskets.
Give him some long range if he doesn't want to get off his boat and wants to fuck
Oh,
people
that'd be
over.
better than a crossbow. Hell yeah. No, 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 no.
Yeah.
Fuck yeah.
Yes. I think it's like a D12 too of damage, which is not too shabby. Yeah.
Ooh. Blown away.
So I looked up, yes, just like distance, like goodbye. I looked up a few items that I thought would be cool for him to have too. These aren't like ones that I've specifically given him, but I thought Candle of the Deep, which it's a candle that stays lit underwater even and gives you like
Ooh.
vision underwater. Boots of Haste because he's a rogue, and of course he needs that because all rogues should have boots of haste.
We should go fast.
Must go faster.
Fast and sneaky.
Yes. In that same vein, Cloak of Displacement.
Yes.
Because why should I get hit? Because fuck you. The Dreaded Helm, Orb of Direction, Walloping Ammunition, which just like knocks people back. An Alchemy Jug because ale. Cloak of the Manta Ray, which would let him have like a pretty good swim speed and also breathing underwater.
Damn, I can't remember. There is a, which since we're talking about items that would be fitting, it's a ring. I can't remember what it's fucking called, but it allows you to control your ship and it allows your ship to move at your command. And then at the same time, I believe there's like a iron stone or something on it that like allows you to like fire off like a cannonball from that ring.
No.
Yeah. I can't.
Oh, that's so cool.
Hold on. I think I have it on my fucking Pinterest board.
Fuck yes. Oh man, can you imagine?
Yeah, because that was a thing in my homebrew, in my my home world. Yeah, my home game.
Yes.
For one of my player characters. Where's my D&D board?
I'll go through more of them as you look. Tell me when you find it. Dust of Disappearing because he was said to have been able to disappear in battle, and like, why wouldn't he be able to do that? Of course he can.
If that's the myth, fuck it. Yeah.
Yeah. A folding boat, which is a boat that you can unfold. Yeah, fuck yeah. Gloves of Swimming and Climbing, Mariner's Armor, and Ring of Evasion or a Ring of Free Action because rogues.
Because rogues.
Yes. I love them so much.
Yeah, no, rogues are the tits. God damn it.
Nope. If you can't find it now, drop it in chat later.
Yeah, I'll drop it on chat on
yes
on Wednesday.
Fuck yeah. So look out for Eli sending us the coolest item ever.
Yeah, I can't remember where I found this on the internet somewhere, but it was
man, that's so perfect.
Oh no, I got it.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, I found this. This was by an Instagram person called 9 Spiked Mountains. Nice. And I believe that's who made this. Actually, no, I'm sorry. It's Bonus Action is the person. It's called the Ring of the Lone Captain. So it's got two things to it. It's got enchanted rigging, and it's while attuned to this ring, you can bond to the rigging of a ship that you are standing on. It takes 30 minutes to bond to the ship. And when the ring is bonded, you can adjust the sails and steering wheel by shouting a command word, and you can only do so within 300 feet of the ship. And when commandeering a ship in this way, it erases the need of a crew to perform these particular tasks. And then and then the second one is called Open Fire, and it's as an action you can point to a target you see within 500 feet and speak a command word. A dark pearlescent cannonball appears in front of you, and you can shoot towards your target. All creatures within 15 feet have to make a dex save. And on a failed save, they take 5d10 force damage.
Holy shit!
Yeah, and on a successful save, they take half damage. This damage is doubled against structures, and you can use this feature once per long rest. Yeah, it's dope. It's dope. It was a really fun item that I had found and given to a player.
Yes. you basically just attune a whole ship.
Exactly. It's so fucking dope, you know. And like if you're gonna be a legend, you know, I might as well control
Be
your
a
own ship and
fucking
fucking
legend.
yeah,
Yes.
exactly. Get some disappearing dust or whatever. You could disappear that ship. It'd be great.
Yes.
Fucking
amazing.
go down in history.
Yes. Oh, so cool. Fuck, I love pirates. I love Cofresí. I love rogues.
I love
Everything's
it.
amazing. Yeah, so that's basically it. That's Cofresí.
Yeah.
He's incredible. Yeah, he deserves some attention because he's neat. And I think so, and I hope you thought so too.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like, learn more about him. Learn more about it. Like pirates in general, there are just amazing people who ended up being pirates from all over the world and shit. And like, it's great to know about somebody like Cofresí. Yeah, all of them. I didn't even know he existed, and I've learned a few about various people, but no one from like this part of the world.
Yeah.
Like even to the point where like being in a point of time when you're like dealing with like the US ships and stuff like that. That's so fascinating. So
the history is so like recent for us.
Yeah,
almost.
Exactly.
There's like there's songs about him and they're like really good. There's the one I listened to was Tony Croato's song. It's I think it's just like La Pirata Cofresí, and it's a bop. It's good.
Oh yeah.
And oh, man, I just like I wouldn't have known about him if my grandmother hadn't told me about him. And like this, like I'm definitely very biased because you know he protected my family and he tried to do right by Puerto Rico, which hasn't been done really very much at all. So yeah, I love my pirate dude. I love you. Thank you for doing this with me. This is so fun.
Thank you. This is great.
Yeah. If you ever think of a person that you want to talk about, Eli, you are more than welcome to hijack and we can switch jobs. And if that ever sits in your little bonnet and percolates and don't know why I'm talking about my dad right now.
Because we're talking about history. And history's totally a dad thing. But yeah, I'll think about it. I'll find somebody. I love history. I love telling people about my history, my culture as well.
Please.
But yeah, thank you for having me. It's great.
Thank you to Aaron for running this as always. We could not do it without you, buds. And that's it on Cofresí for this week. In a couple weeks, I'll come back with someone new, both from history and hanging out with me. Join us. I guess you have already joined us, hopefully, for good old Sheet Farm with Aaron. I think he's still. I don't know if he will have finished Crisis. We'll find out if he finishes Crisis. Eli is going to be or will have been future for me, past for you. Eli will have been on Ironsworn.
Taking on the Sergio, taking on the Irelands. So excited.
It's going to be great. And then on Friday, you can join us for
Debrief.
Yes, it's Debrief. I had to make sure. Debrief number 3. Yes, we'll be talking about episode 9 and 10.
9 and 10.
9 and 10. And
yeah, we'll be wrapping up.
8's not in there.
No, 8 is a part of 84. But yeah, we'll be wrapping up with Doomed to Repeat.
Yes.
That show will actually be live too.
Yeah.
We will be actually in person. So if you join us, you can ask whatever questions you want from the cast and Sergio in chat, and we'll be happy to ask. So hopefully you guys will tune in.
Yeah. And then the Friday after that, you can catch Zakia's phenomenal one shot. Molgoths versus Visigoths, or is it the other way around? I can't remember if it's the other way around. It's a very hard sentence to say. There will be Molgoths, there will be Visigoths, there will be chaos, because of course there will. Yeah. Thank you again for joining us, and we'll see you next time. Bye.
Have a good one.